Hey everyone, welcome to the mental health portion of my 22Q Awareness Month postings. So here goes. And go. This is probably the longest 22Q awareness post I will write. However, it's a huge part of my life. I will talk about a few things that triggered my mental health to get worse and worse. If I can help a few people or just even one person, I've done what I set out to do. I didn't really want to share this part at first, but it's a huge part of my story. It's helped shape who I am today. If I hadn't gotten help for my mental health, I may not be here at all telling this story. My mental health started to go south when I was in high school, which was the 90s. When I was 16 in 1994, my uncle passed away. It was unexpected, even though he'd been in the hospital. I think I was in shock for like a year, and then I was sad and depressed for the rest of high school. I didn't really know how to handle that. Thankful that my group of friends who stuck by me at that time, it couldn't have been easy. The rest of high school was hard for me emotionally. During that same year that my uncle passed away, I came to the realization that I was gay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. It was 1994 and I was 16, and for obvious reasons, I did not come out. And I wouldn't come out until my 30s. Keeping that secret from my family or anyone was a huge factor in my depression, because I didn't get to be myself. I didn't realize how freeing it would be once I was myself. I would try to see a couple therapists in high school, but they weren't working out. As I said in my previous post, I tried working in daycare, but it was too much. I had an asthma attack while working at one of them that landed me in the hospital for a week, and I did not go back to that job that I was at, that I'd only worked at for 3 days. So we tried this school called BizTech, which worked for a while. It was a good fit. You know, no grades or anything like that. It was just, you were just there to learn. As I was doing this school, 9/11 hit a week before my birthday. I had anxiety like I'd never had anxiety before. Sorry. I was terrified for a couple of years that another attack would happen that would be closer to home, like Sacramento, which is not that far from where I live. I started to see a therapist a few months after 9/11. He was very helpful. So I went back to working in daycare. It was awful. Big, huge mistake. Pretty Woman movie fans will know that reference. Okay, going back to the where am I? It was awful. No edits. I don't do edits. Okay. It was awful. I had an anxiety attack every day and was physically ill every morning before work. One morning, my dad found me on the bathroom floor. I didn't want to go to work. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was too debilitated to go. And my dad called my therapist and we got an emergency appointment. This is when I got referred to my psychiatrist, who I've had 20 years. I don't know. I've lost track. He has saved my life. I'm not being over dramatic. That is a true statement. He would save my life. And I will cry. I will definitely cry when he retires. I never went back to work. I haven't had a regular job since 2003, and it's almost 2023. I had to learn that my value here on earth doesn't rely on college degrees or if I worked or not. Life is so much more than your job title or a degree. My doctor and I started trying different, what they call cocktails, a mixture of medicines to help with multiple symptoms. It would be a few years of trial and error before we got the right combination of drugs. About a year after I started seeing my psychiatrist, I needed to be hospitalized for suicidal thoughts. Okay. That was in December of 2003, the longest 5 days of my life. And you want to know the real reason why? I couldn't have my music. Not a pretty sight. Me without music for a week? No, ew, gross. Okay. It was then that I decided I would do whatever it takes not to end up back there. And I never did end up back there. I would do outpatient for a couple of weeks, every day for a couple of weeks. Then I would go once a week at night for a few months or a year, I can't remember which. The behavioral health hospital where I was treated patients. They used dialectical behavior therapy, which is a specific type of cognitive behavior therapy. TBT's goal is to, and this is according to their website, to teach how to live in the moment, develop healthy ways to cope with stress, regulate their emotions, and improve their relationship with others. It is very helpful therapy for bipolar disorder, but I didn't know I was bipolar yet. I would be diagnosed later because I was at a psychiatrist appointment and my doctor observed me having a rapid cycle, and it was like, that, yeah, and he was right. So he diagnosed me with type 2. Type 2 is a major psychiatric disorder which the person experiences occasional episodes of hypomania. Persons with this disorder experience episodes of extremely low mood depression. In between these extremes, the person's mood may be normal. The mania with type 2 is usually shortly lived, and of a lower intensity than bipolar 1. In my case, it involved stuff like spending more money than I had. I was addicted to spending money. Overextending myself in activities, which I have gotten better at not doing. So, moving on. Eventually, I ended up at the county mental health. I couldn't get their services for right away, so I was referred to the wellness center, which was very helpful. I was able at some point to get help with county mental health. Both had great support groups for each program, had classes about being mindful, etc. They even had yoga and Tai Chi. It was really cool. Maybe I should go back there to the wellness center. So, sorry. Each program, so eventually this journey in my part of my story led me to try to get services through Valley Mountain Regional Center. I would see one more therapist who I would get mad at, because that's never happened, because he would ask if I was possibly gay. How did he know? I said no, and I went home, and I was mad. I was pissed off. I said no, and I went home and told my mom, wait, Breeze, rewind. Let's back up here a little bit. In my late 20s, I finally talked to my parents about it, and again, about being gay, and again decided I was just imagining it, because that was healthy. Okay, back to the therapist. I'd come home and tell my mom, and she'd remind me, she'd be like, you came out to us for a short period of time. But I still was not being my true self. Emily. Okay, but I wouldn't change anything. That's not how. Anyway, when I finally got services through Valley Mountain Regional Center, I would start a day program. It was a lifesaver. It truly did save my life. They provided a therapist who I would see once a week. I figured out the reason I had gone through therapists like a revolving door was because A, I wasn't comfortable being honest to them, and B, they weren't trained to work with people who had developmental disabilities. This new therapist of mine was. It's what he did all day long. He helped me in ways no one else could. He wasn't judgmental, and he would give me tools to use for when I became anxious in that very moment when the anxiety came. It was when I was seeing him that I finally, in 2016, would come out to everyone. No one better than I. Nobody cared. Which is awesome. I'm trying to find out, especially my parents and sister. They really, but I think it's because since I had talked about it with them before, it probably wasn't much of a surprise. It would take me from 1994 to 2016 to finally say, damn, I'm pretty awesome. I'm kind of cool. Yeah, I said what I said. It's a scary time. Oh, wait, pause. I will fast forward because 22 years and 22Q. That's weird, right? Right? It's a scary time for those of us in the LGBTQ plus community. The recent shooting at the Club Q in Colorado Springs definitely hit home this time. This time. I went to my first Pride back in September, and it was amazing. I felt at home and safe. So I kept thinking how that could have been us. We were doing the same things, dancing and singing along to music. I'm not here to change anyone's views. My only goal here is to share my story, and it would be unlike me to not share this part of my story. Like I said, it's a huge part of my story, as it's one of the longest videos I've made. If you know me, my only goal is to share my story, and if you know me, if you are someone who knows me in real life, you know that is very true. Sorry. No edits. Coming out was probably the best thing for my mental health. I think that actually saved my life. It's probably the best thing I could have done for my mental health. I was at original board training, advocacy coming up next. And after watching a video at the training about a consumer who identified as queer and was in a wheelchair, I was like, oh my God, that's me. In a lot of ways. I had never seen somebody who was disabled and LGBTQ on the screen before, like that combination of people. We exist. I saw myself, another person who happens to be LGBTQ and happens to have disabilities. They were their authentic self, sharing their story to the world on this training video. So when they asked if anyone had comments, I raised my hand and I basically said what I just said. At lunch break, one of the main speakers came up to me and asked if I could be on the panel for after lunch. Wasn't expecting that, but I did it anyway. I didn't have time to be anxious, so it all worked out. So I did the panel after lunch, and what I didn't expect, but it was just the coolest day ever, and I did it, and that's when I realized that this is what I want to do, share my story, advocate with people about 22Q, LGBTQ, just being human. Then I started to get opportunities when I came out. I'm like, yes, yay me. And then COVID hit because that training was in October of 2019. So, to end, this post is for elementary school me, who was teased every day and cried almost every day. For 16-year-old me, who was terrified of being my true self. Still kind of am a little, not gonna lie. For 20-something-year-old me who was on the bathroom floor crying, feeling sick to her stomach, not wanting to go to work, and a 30-something-year-old me who finally is comfortable in her own skin. My mental health journey is a journey I will be on for the rest of my life, but I'm ready. Bring it on. Coming up next, in my next post, I will talk about how I learned about self-advocacy and how it became my passion. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, day, whatever time zone you're in.